Anytime we see violence mirrored from one portion of the country to another portion of the country, it should be a cause for concern. My name is Chad Haggerty. I'm a student at law with Craig Hooker Shizkin in Calgary, a criminal defense firm, and I'm a retired RCMP officer.
And it's Cal DeSange. I'm a active duty law enforcement officer and the founder of Kids Play Foundation. There's 2-3 crime syndicates that are essentially engaged in retaliation and retribution against one another. And it dates back to early January when a top level figure in the Kang Group, which is a crime group associated with a gang called the Red Scorpions. He was taken out. And subsequently thereafter, there was a series of homicides. In the course of the last 6 to 7 weeks, there was another high profile figure, this one in the Brothers Keepers groups by the name of Dhaliwal, who was killed in a very high profile shooting at the Corderos restaurant in Vancouver. And as a result of that, what essentially ends up happening is when you take out a high level figure in any crime syndicate, it essentially results in a couple of things. There's a power vacuum that is created within their own respective organization, and also the retaliation aspect of it when they start going after the other groups that were responsible for putting out the hit in the first place.
2007 was probably the worst year in relatively recent memory, where two clear factions were struggling for control of the drug and crime trade in Calgary. But as recently as 2019, there was a spate of violent crime localized in Northeast Calgary. That led to Indo-Canadians calling for more police action and more police involvement.
We're essentially taking a look at what happened in Calgary, and we take a look at the timeline. Historically speaking, there's been multiple homicides in Alberta, which have been linked back to BC. So this is nothing new. But I think because of the time proximity, namely because of all the violence that's taking place here and the fact that such a violent act recently occurred in Calgary, clearly the public is upset about this and they're fearful, as they should be. There is no regard for public safety when it comes to these gangsters. It's all about tit for tat. They're taking one another out and they don't care who gets in the way in terms of the crossfire.
The reason to move into Alberta, or for a Vancouver drug dealer to move into Alberta, is like any other business. The business model requires acquiring new customers. Somebody moving from Vancouver into Calgary will have access to new markets. In order to do that, in order to gain those markets, there's violent conflict with the people that already exist. And what we saw this weekend could be a product of that.
It's not just about dominating BC, because some of these markets can get saturated and there's a lot of competition. So they want to start expanding their scope and the depth of their organization to other provinces so that they can start captivating those markets as well. And that's why you're going to see a lot of interprovincial violence happening on a more regular basis.
There's a drug pipeline from Vancouver to Calgary and to Edmonton through the various highways. To Edmonton, it's on the Yellowhead Highway, and to Calgary, it's on the Trans-Canada Highway. People wanting to access the drug market in Alberta will funnel their drugs from Vancouver, the point of entry, to Calgary or Edmonton.
Unfortunately, it's going to come down to fundamental police tactics. You got to keep in mind, anytime you have a violent act, these can be prolonged, protracted investigations that can take time because we're binded by the law. We have to make sure that the caliber and the quality of the evidence that we present to the courts is capable of charging and convicting these individuals.
It's difficult for police to respond to the violence without encompassing other people. Police, whose primary focus is ostensibly public safety, they achieve that by arresting people, putting them in jail. A more complete social network designed to address the drug problem would be important. In Alberta, we've seen safe injection sites close down, budgets cut to those organizations that help address addiction and all of the other issues that come with the drug trade.
The public would think that a lot of these kids come from lower socioeconomic impoverished family backgrounds. Naturally, they're going to gravitate towards a lifestyle. That's not true. A lot of the gangsters that you're seeing here in British Columbia specifically come from middle class to upper class families. So they like that glorified, romanticized, scar-faced lifestyle that comes with the gangster lifestyle. And unfortunately, young kids that are as early as grade 6 and 7 are being lured using these baits by these upper-end drug dealers. And unfortunately, these young kids become entrenched into the lifestyle until it's too late.
One of the things that we need to remember is that The safety of our community belongs to all of us. We can't leave that simply to police officers. If you see suspicious activity, call police. If report, be prepared to be a good witness.
That the public needs to understand that there is no band-aid solution to this. This has to be a long-term strategic effort that needs to be taken by the community as a whole. School districts, law enforcement agencies, nonprofits, everybody needs to work together in unison in a collaborative, conjunctive effort. So it means reaching out to kids as early as elementary school, and instilling good principles and values and letting them know the pitfalls and repercussions of this lifestyle.
Take note of your community, develop a strong bond, and a couple of things will happen. The first is that those kids that are currently being left by the wayside will have a greater feeling of community involvement, community cohesion. The other thing is that when crime or criminal activity is involved, it comes to your neighborhood, you'll be more aware of it because you'll know your neighbors, you'll know the patterns, you'll not be alone in an island. You'll be part of the greater community.